Ladies, could we have your attention again?
Stay just like that.
Okay. Our next guest is somebody, our next guest speaker. Well, look at it like this. You came out already, you got dressed. It really pays to stay, doesn't it? And what are you going to go home to right now anyway, right? So if you stay a little longer, then maybe somebody will be nice and clean up for you. But if you go home now, you're going to have to do it all yourself. I'm trying. Our next speaker is somebody who has dedicated his life to chinuch. And he has really made an unbelievable name for himself. Rabbi Shmuel Kunda is famous. He is very famous. He has enjoyed tremendous success, not only as a Rebbe, but for the past 18 years as a camp director, Camp Na'arim. All of us, of course, know about those fabulous, fabulous tapes. Actually, they're called children's tapes, but I want you to know they are not only for children. It really pays for you to sit down and listen to some of Rabbi Kunda's tapes, and you'll see that there are tremendous, tremendous lessons to learn from them. We all know how important the Yachid is, and tonight we're really putting emphasis on the Yachid. And I really have to say that Rabbi Shmuel Kunda has distinguished himself as a Machanech dedicated to the individual Yachid as well as the Klal. We really want to thank him on behalf of all children and parents for all the work that he has done and for all the joy that he has given children around the world. Would you please welcome Rabbi Shmuel Kunda.
Try. People, I believe it. It's amazing. It's embarrassing. Those monstrous posters, I never saw anything like it in my life. But they're not in the back, all over Borough Park. How can I find myself if I can't look behind those posters? They're all over the place. Actually, first I want to thank the, I guess it's called an MC, for MCing so well, doing such a wonderful job of saying all the important things about me, which are, most of them are true. She left out the parts that I told her to leave out, and I thank her for that too. And she mentioned about my tapes. They're not only for children, they're also for immature adults who will enjoy them as well. I didn't mean anybody here in particular, although I meant everybody in general, you have to understand. Now, most speakers start with a Dvar Torah. See, I got you quiet. See, I knew it was going to work. It's terrific. And as the custom goes, I'm going to try the same thing. It might not work, but I'll try my best. The Mishnah in Sanhedrin says, Kol Mekayim Nefesh Achas miYisrael Ki'ilu Kiyem Oyla Molei, which means, I'll repeat it again, Kol Mekayim Nefesh Achas miYisrael Ki'ilu Kiyem Oyla Molei. That's just a voice from one of my tapes I threw in incidentally. If someone is Mekayim one life of a Jewish person, it's as if he was Mekayim the entire world, as if he sustained the entire world. V'chol ha'ma'abed nefesh achas miYisrael ki'ilu ibeid olam olei. If someone is ma'abed, if someone wastes, if someone throws away one Jewish life, it's like he was mevatel the whole world. You'll notice that it does not say kol ha'matzil nefesh achas. It does not say if someone saves one Jewish life. Simple. If someone goes, if you see somebody drowning in the river, you jump in, you schlep him out by his toe, you drag him out, and you schlep him on the shore, and you pump. You ever see these Atzola guys? 400 Atzola guys on one little measly guy. They're pumping till 5 fishes pop out. Then they found out it was the wrong guy. The other guy's lying over there, down the block. But anyway, they're pumping away, and they saved the guy's life. That's not enough. Matzil nefesh achas is not enough. You have to be mekayim. Mekayim means to sustain. You have to sustain a human life. We're here tonight, not only because of one human life, that we are here to gather tonight to celebrate the concept of one human life, but the idea of not only of one individual, but of the idea of individuality. That every single person counts. Every individual counts. Everybody is something. You can't say he's something and he's nothing. Everybody's something. Kol ha'mekayim. We have to be mekayim nefesh achas. And how do we do that? By sustaining, by supporting these type of organizations. We give of ourselves. We come down in the middle of the night with Mesiras Nefesh when we could be home doing the dishes, and we're coming here and we are willing to come down and watch and be part of this wonderful organization. That's called Kol ha'mekayim nefesh achas. And actually, truthfully, sustaining one, and what is Kol ha'ma'abed nefesh achas before I continue? Kol ha'ma'abed does not mean cholila. It doesn't say Kol ha'ritzeach. It doesn't say Kol ha'horeg. It says Kol ha'ma'abed. Ma'abed means if you leave it go. If you forget about it. If you see a child, you see a kid in the street, and you say, well, what's here? What's the difference? He does. What is he going to do? What is he going to accomplish? That's called Kol ha'ma'abed. You leave him go. You forget about him. He's nothing. That's terrible, and that's like you let go of an entire world. It's not terrible. And I know in the camping line, how Kol ha'ma'abed nefesh achas, which means every kid counts. You can tell I'm visiting to how every kid counts. All the parents come, and the director of the camp, the other director, I have a co-director, comes running out and says, oh, Mrs. Moskowitz, your son is so wonderful. How does he know the name is Mrs. Moskowitz? He has no idea. He looks at the kid's undershirt. You ever see a director of a camp run over to a kid, he picks up his undershirt, Mrs. Moskowitz, your son is wonderful. I tried it myself a lot of times. You ever call a boy Fruit of the Loom? I tried it happened once. Mrs. Fruit of the... Sorry. Once I really got into trouble. What had happened was the kid switched undershirts with his neighbor next door in the morning. I said, Mrs. Moskowitz, your son is one of the most finest boys in the camp. He's always smiling, he's always happy, he hardly ever occasionally makes trouble. And the two parents look at me. I said, you don't believe me? I'm telling you, Mrs. Moskowitz, your son is wonderful. So finally the father says, thank you very much, but my name is Shapiro. I said, look, mister, you may be Shapiro, but your kid's undershirt is Moskowitz. So, we are machshiv every single child when it's important to us. But we have to be machshiv a child no matter what, in any event, in any situation. Actually, the idea of an individual, what is an individual? A person, one human being who makes an impact, who makes an effect on people around him all over the place, wherever he is. I find many times, it's like the story they say about a guy who went up to Gan Eden. He had a dream he was in Gan Eden. If you heard the story already, Mistama, then you'll laugh anyway, I hope. Thank you. I didn't get up to the punchline yet, but I appreciate it anyway. But anyway, there was a guy who went up to Gan Eden and he wakes up in the morning, he says, "Ay, Rabban Shalom, did I have a dream last night? Did I have a dream last night?" This shows the chshivus of an individual. So his wife says, "What happened?" He says, "I saw a dream. I saw in my dream there were two lines going into Gan Eden. One line it said, all men that were dominated by their wives, on this line. Then there was another line. There was a sign that says, all men that were not dominated by their wives on this line. On the first line, there was endless men. It just kept on going. I couldn't see the end of it. On the other line, there was one man. One lo yutzlach standing over there. You know, a guy with half-closed eyes. His mustache is drooping. You know, when are you going? So I went over to him. I said, tell me, mister. Mister! He wakes up. Mister, tell me. Why are you on this line? He said, man wabert mir gesagt, du zu stehen. This shows individuality. He's not going to be impressed by that big line over there. He's going to stand over here where his wife told him. And you think his wife is happy? She's going to run over and say, why can't you be like everybody else? Why must you stand there like a girl all by yourself? You see all those people. One of the most important objectives of individuality, I have notes by the way in case you're wondering. Here's my notes, tuna fish, egg sack. Thanks, the wrong shirt. I had my grocery list in there, it's all right. We have in our midst important people that have made an impact in our world. Could you imagine if they would have been stifled as youths? Sometimes you see a child in a classroom. I see many times when I was teaching, I used to see a kid sitting over there in a classroom dreaming. He was looking up in the Shemayim. I said, what are you looking at? He says, there's a crack in the ceiling. I said, so what? He says, there's water dripping on my head from the crack in the ceiling. I said, so what? What's the difference? He said, it's a brand new yarmulke, I don't want to get it wet. And I'd watch this boy dreaming and dreaming away and thinking to himself, what is he going to be one day? Who is he going to be? And then we come with a big curriculum. We have a curriculum that would make an elephant collapse. And we come in and say, you, the guy with the dripping ceiling on top of your head, we have a curriculum for you, here. The poor kid is buried in the curriculum. He doesn't even know what curriculum means. He got buried by something he never knew what it was. At least an elephant, he knows what it is. Could you imagine this child? We give him a schedule. We say, all right, today we're going to learn Vayikra, today we're going to learn Lahavdil, we're going to learn math, or we're going to learn science, we're going to learn this or that. Today we learn science. You know what science is? Hey you. No, I don't mean you. Hey you, with the crack on the ceiling. You know what science is? You could see the enthusiasm oozing all over the place out of him. He has no idea. I said, the teacher, that was me obviously, because I don't know what science is either. The teacher says, you'll never be a scientist. And the boy has a tremendous emotional reaction. You'll never be a scientist. What does this boy do? When the teacher runs over, he sees that inside his desk is some papers. Give me those papers. Give me those papers, Yankel. Pulls out the papers. Hey, what's this? What are these papers? What is this? Did you make this? And the boy's scared. He knows he did it, but he didn't do it. I mean, he's not going to admit that he did it. So the teacher looks at him with a very stern face. And pulls in his belt, which he's not wearing usually because he can't afford one. And he points to the boy and says, tell me, Yagel. Now tell the truth. Did you make those pictures? Does that mean you did? Come up here. He says, these are very nice. These are beautiful. They're pictures of me. And he says, where'd you learn how to draw like that? In your class. But this is a science class. I know. I learned the scientific principle of putting lead on paper. And the teacher says to him, you mean you're an artist? You draw pictures, but why don't you know any science? I don't like science. Why don't you know any math? I don't like math. What do you like? I like to draw. And the teacher's upset. But I want to tell you something. That little boy, I know him very well. No, it wasn't me. No. And the little boy that sat there and made up tunes and used to bang on. When the teacher was when the Rebbe was teaching, he had his Gemara, he had his nose in the Gemara, and suddenly he hears. He thinks maybe he's hearing the Rishonim and Achronim are coming down and banging on top of his head. He says, "Who is that? Who's making? Vetutos. Come here, there." And the little boy is banging away, calls him up to his desk. Was klapst denn? Was das? And he says, "Were you making the noise? What kind of noise?" Pam, param, pam, pam, pam. A song, a tune. You imagine a kid like that? The greatest individuals were the biggest failures in school. Because school is a sardine can. School is like a box with no windows and no doors and no way out, only in. There's only an indoor, there's no out. It's like those cockroach houses. You ever see that? They advertise. Your cockroaches will go in, but there's no way out. Well, the kids in school feel like cockroaches. I remember when I was a kid in school, used to come January, there was snow, kill here. How come there's no more snow anymore? This is not right. Is that fair? When I was a kid, there was snow till here, and today the kids are walking around in the winter with their undershirts on. It's unbelievable. And we used to sit over there, and we came to the school. I had a school, by the way, it was on the east side. It wasn't like today where a school bus drove up. It drove up diagonally and hit 2 houses and squashed 4 cars. In those days, you had to go by train and 6 buses to get to school, and not school buses. And you had books. Each book weighed 4 pounds. You had 300 books. And when we got to school, the whole building, all the kids, all 1,000 kids squashed into the building started expanding like a balloon. And when recess came in, all the kids ran out. And this was the individual child. Every kid used to sit there and wait January. They thought it was never going to end. Finally, it came March. There was a thaw. And they knew it was going to end eventually. Till we finally got out. Now, every single child, every single kid that had to go through that yeshiva system, he was waiting, chalashing for that summer. He was waiting for the moment that he could leave. And every kid knew one thing. Every kid knew one thing. It was tzara shoveh. That nobody was interested in what they had to say or what they thought. You were part of a system. Now, could you imagine if children in the system would have had an individualized schedule for them, someone that would have watched over what they wanted to do? Imagine if the people today would have not had the individuality that they want. Can you imagine? If Mordechai ben David would have been a plumber. All the pipes would have gone on key. Can you imagine if Karl Bach would have been a dentist? Can you imagine if the Reichmans in Toronto would have run a pizza store? You have to realize, these people, they had their kishroinus, their koiches, and they went and they used them. Kol ha'ma'aved nefesh achas miYisrael. If you waste your talent, and Hashem gives every single person a certain amount of talent, if a person wastes it and doesn't use it for the koiches that he has, what is the result? The result is that the person is not happy with himself, and he doesn't come out to the tachlis that he could. Mentioning also, incidentally, the MC did forget one thing. I was not born in this country. I was born many, many years ago in a faraway land called Shanghai. Anybody here was born in Shanghai? Oh, your brother? Oh, of course, I know him very well. Is his name Chang? Chang? No. Thank you. And I came here as a little boy, and everybody said in Shanghai, the Mir Yeshiva that was there, every single person, when my mother used to wheel me with a carriage, all the Chinese used to come running out. They had never seen a white boy before in their lives. And I don't think they ever saw one again after I left. And Baruch Hashem, I'm still white. In those days, every one of the Talmidim of the Mir Yeshiva stood out. Everyone was an individual by himself. They knew there was a world of Chinese all around them. But as time went on, as time goes on, we see what kind of a system that we have sometimes. And I feel bad to watch. It's a shame how we watch our kids be squashed into a system. It's important for every single child to know who they are. To know that they have certain kaiches that nobody else has. That they're unusual in their own way. By the way, let me just mention also Agavurcha. Many years ago, when we started Camp Na'arim, we used to have a system where we would make up the bunks right before camp. And when I say right before camp, see, the other camps were fancy schmancy camps. They used to do it like 5 months in advance. When one season ended, they were already making up bunks for next season. Because everybody registered the year before. By us, everybody registered on the bus or after the bus landed. Matter of fact, usually when the bus left, there was always that one lady, 1 second, I got the registration, don't run away. She was holding onto the tailpipe, you know what I mean? And that's how we made up bunks. Rabbi Bender, Yankel Bender would sit next to me. He'd tell me which bunk is he in? He's in that bunk, he's in this bunk, and he's amazing, this guy. He would remember every single kid's name. He would shoot all the names out, he would write them down, he would make up bunks. And he knew every single child, every single individual child. Finally, we got to one point, he said, tell me, Shmuel, who is this kid? Bernstein. There's 2 Bernstein brothers. How old are they? I don't know. I've lost the application. Think, how old are they? Are they 12, 11, 4, 1, -0? How old are they? Oh, I know. The older one is 9, the younger one is 7. Oh, good. Bunk Daled and Bunk Beis. All set. And you know, in Camp Na'arim, of course I don't want to brag, Chas v'shalom, but in our camp we really work hard to try and fit every single kid into the right bunk. Matter of fact, after we announce all the bunks, there's about 300 kids standing over there tearing everybody to pieces. I wanted to be with him. And the other kid says, I don't want to be with him. And the first kid says, but I want to be with you. And the I don't want to be with you. And this goes on a whole day long. Anyway, we got to the first day of camp. Rabbi Bender gets up in front of the camp and he says, Bernstein, all right, we're going to announce the bunks. Bunk Aleph, he announces, Chaimowitz, Shmidrovich, Zhondrovich, all 9 kids get up. They walk up these little pitzalach. I don't know how their mother sent them to care. I really don't know. I don't understand at 6 years old. At least send a diaper along. Come on, give me a break. You see little pitzalach with pacifiers going in their mouth. I don't mind that, but even the counselor has a pacifier. And they're walking over these little pitzalach. I said, are you homesick? But I asked the counselor, are you homesick? I asked Rabbi Bender, are you homesick? It's unbelievable. So finally, all right, he announced Bunk Aleph, then he says Bunk Beis. He announces Bunk Beis, Yankelevich, Shikovatsky, Pachakutsky, all these kids, my kids. And you have these little pitzel kids come up, these kinderlach, these zisa kinderlach, with no teeth in their mouth, with rattles. Then he says, all right, Bernstein. And this big 15-year-old kid comes out, him and his brother, 2 big guys, like this. And they're standing there with these 7-year-old little babies. And Yaakov Bender looks up, and then he looks at me. And I go, Bernstein! And poor Bernstein standing over there. He's looking around. And all the little kids are hugging onto his feet. Mommy! And Yankel says, Bernstein, huh? 7 years old, huh? It's kind of big for his age. And Bernstein says, I think I came to the wrong camp. He says, don't worry. Stay with your bunk for 2 days and then you can come back and complain. We'll work it out. Everything will be all right. You ever see a 14-year-old kid get tucked in at night? So, sometimes we have to find the individuality of every single child. It's very, very important also. I find many, many times over the years that every child also, I remember there was a Maisa, not every child can adapt himself, can accustom himself to the ways, to the things that we want. I was once sitting with a friend of mine. We were learning in the Lakewood Minyan. And we were learning and talking. This friend of mine happens to be in Chinuch. He's a Rebbe in Yeshiva in a younger grade. And he says to me, he says, what do I do with my class? What am I going to do with them? They don't want to daven. I try, I make them, I give them, they don't want to daven. I said, you have to try and make them happy. Give them prizes. He says, why? Why? I don't want to give prizes anymore. I gave already. I'm sick and tired of prizes. I gave them candy wrappers, whatever they wanted. I said, no. You have to give, don't give up. Next time you give a candy wrapper, put a candy inside, you'll see it'll make a difference. No. I said, I want to tell you something. If you take a child and you force him to daven, the child, he learns one thing. He might learn how to daven pretty good, but he learns one more thing. He learns to hate davening. Because this child is not good at reading. He is not quick he may be good at other things, but he is not good at reading. So you're standing there and forcing it down his throat. I once saw a father standing by a bathroom. You should excuse me. Fathers sometimes take kids into bathrooms. Those that don't know about it, I'll explain it later. And he's standing by a bathroom. And he has a 3-year-old little kid, one of those kids from that bunk with Bernstein. And he's saying, Asher Yotzar Es Ha'adam B'chachma, and the kid is supposed to repeat it. Asher Yotzar Es Ha'adam. The only problem is by the time he's finished, the kid has to go to the bathroom again. That's the only thing. So what's the use? But this poor child, the father is sitting on top of him and forcing it down his throat. I want to tell you, when this child has to make a bracha, besides Asher Yotzar, that one he's going to know. He's saying it over 100 times. This child is going to aggravate him. Anyway, I was telling my friend, I said, listen, I want to tell you something. When you force something down a child's throat, he just throws it back up at you. You should excuse me, you know what, back up at you. He says, yeah, but you gotta teach a kid. And right next to me was sitting a very Hasidish looking guy. Excuse me. A guy with payas a mile long, mamish, I'm telling you. Mamish out the door. With a long, long beard and a round hat with a flat top. Can you imagine that? He had 2 hats on top even though. How Hasidish he was. And I figured, I hope this guy didn't understand what I was talking about because he'd probably surely get up and start hollering at me. In the middle of the conversation, while I'm talking to my friend, this guy's listening to my conversation. Nervous guy. In the middle, this guy gets up and jumps up in the air and starts hollering at me. I knew it. I was waiting for it. He says, you're right. Bist gerecht. 1000% gerecht. I said, look, take a tranquilizer. Do something. Sit down. No, bist gerecht. My friend was so shocked out of his wits, he fell off his chair. He says, he's right. The man's out of his mind. I said, was is was? He says, wenn ich bin given a kind, which I'll translate, which means when I was a child. Wenn ich bin given a kind, hat mein Tate mich gezwungen. He forced me to daven. This hit a certain chord in this guy's deep in here. It hit a certain bell. It rang a bell. The guy said, when ich bin given mein Tate mich gezwungen, he made me daven. And I didn't want to daven. Like, okay, how many kids want to daven? You find me a kid that wants to daven, you should take him to see a professional psychologist. I didn't want to daven. And mit mir gezwungen. My tat hat gemeint good. He wanted, he meant well. I don't know a Hasidish Havor, you'll excuse me. Maybe I'll try. My tat hat gemeint, sei gut. Not bad. And he said, and He forced me, and he says, today, till today, ad hayoyim, when I try to daven, it doesn't go. It doesn't go. I have to force myself to daven. He meant well, but I have to force myself. I have to push myself to daven. And many times, when I heard this, first of all, I was shocked. My friend, he was, Mamish, his mouth was open, his eyes were popping out. There was steam coming out of his ears. He couldn't believe it. See, this guy should say this. He was shocked. And he said, I'm telling you, you want to teach your children how to daven, don't force them. Go easy. Be happy with them. Give them prizes. If they don't do it, don't worry. They'll learn to daven one day. Like the lady with the kid, they go around with the thumb in the mouth. And she was so worried. My child goes with the thumb in the mouth. And her neighbor says, don't worry. By the time the kuppah comes, she'll have the thumb out of her mouth. I know, but she's engaged already. That's the problem. You ever see a girl go down a kuppah like this? And because we are forcing many children to become something that they're not, what happens? They have to go to psychologists and psychiatrists and psychiatrists that visit psychologists and psychologists that visit psychiatrists. They're all visiting each other. If you want to know which doctor not to go to, I'll tell you right now. First of all, don't go to a doctor that's skinny. A doctor that's skinny is an anti-Semit. I'll tell you why he's skinny. To tell you, you have cholesterol. That's why, you ever hear a doctor make a hesped? Oh, he has no more cholesterol. That's all he cares about, cholesterol. You go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, he has his name and 461 letters afterwards. Every letter means another $10. And when you go inside, you lie down and sit down on the couch. He listens to you for 13 and a half minutes. He says, that's very nice. That'll be $248.50. So right away you pass out. He revives you, throws water on you. $258. I understand the $258, but why the 48 cents? That's rent for the couch. And this is what we have to go. I see many times. I remember one time I took a daughter. My daughter had like a problem. She had what's called TMJ. Anybody here? Probably everybody knows what TMJ is. It's very common. If you don't have TMJ, you're not so frum. That's the way it is nowadays. In Beisaka, first you walk in, they ask you where you come from, what your family. Did you have TMJ? Yes. Baruch Hashem, you can come into the school. How many Rambans do you know? 400 Rambans come into the school. So my daughter unfortunately had a little bit of a problem. She opened them out, she couldn't close them out. She closed them out, she couldn't open them out, whatever it was. But in all directions it hurt. So finally I went to a doctor, I went to one doctor, noch a doctor, zweite doctor. By each doctor you have to drop off something in a dover. A pigeon shvuyim. Otherwise they lock you in the office. You walk in, the doctor, anyway, finally I got to one doctor, he says, oh, I see she has teeth. Go to a certain specialist on Avenue U, on the end of the godforsaken place, who knows there's not a single yid out there, he'll take care of you. Who wants to go? Well, I can't. No. This dentist is a special guy. He'll take care of you. So we went all the way down to Avenue U, and we stopped over there, and we went out, and we went up to this guy up on top of a pizza store, and we see the office is crowded on Avenue U. And there's noise coming out of the office. A lot of people are there. People with TMJ, I guess. They couldn't talk much because they couldn't open their mouth. And I take a look, and I see all from kids. Kids with payas, kids with big yarmulkes, kids with tzitzis, and girls, not with tzitzis, but girls, with long dresses, all Weibelach, and all over, from Borough Park, Williamsburg. Finally, it was my turn. It was like 8 hours later, I got my turn. I went in, how are you, doctor? How are you, Dr. Kaufman, whatever his name is? Yes, come in. Next case. He's happy, this doctor. He's very happy. He's thrilled. He's thrilled. It's like a doctor, you walk in, you say, Doc, something's bothering me. I don't know what she says. I see right away what's wrong with you. What's wrong? Your wallet needs a diet. I'm going to reduce it right now. I will reduce it. So you walk in and this doctor sits you down, he sits your child, and he opens the mouth and checks and says, all right, here, bite on this. Not my finger, bite on this. She bites on a mold. And the doctor says, I see right away, you have TMJ. For this, I had to wait 8 hours in your office? Yes. And the solution is, you have to buy a special mold that comes from Arkansas. Why can't I buy a mold here in Brooklyn? In Brooklyn, they don't make them. Why don't they make them? Because if you send it from Arkansas for $3 UPS, you can charge $600 for it. And if you send it in Brooklyn, you only charge $3.50 for the same mold. So sure enough, we had to wait 5 weeks, and my daughter was in pain. I said, I see a lot of my compatriots around here. Oh, he says, you guys are doing a great job. The guys are doing a terrific job for me. You got whatever, I don't know what you're doing out there, but whatever you're doing, keep it up. Because I never did so well. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So many kids don't feel good. I feel great. I said, why? Oh, he says, you kids, they're all tense and nervous and this and that. I told myself, learn a lesson. Learn a lesson. What happens when you force a mold into a kid's mouth, or you force a kid into a mold? She comes out with a TMJ problem. That's what it is. It's unbelievable. It's like I once met a Rav, I was once sitting at a bar mitzvah with a Rav, and this Rav tells me, I said, you just came from out of town, how's it going? He says, wonderful, Baruch Hashem. Things are doing great. It's wonderful. Really? What's so great? So many people are being divorced. Kenayna hara. Mamish Gittin are coming to me left and right. It's wonderful. He says, last week I was at a chalitza. It was gewaldig. I said, really? He says, it's great. It's mamish, it's business. It's booming. Then he tells me, what do you think shown by a chalitza? He says, simple. In a mazel like a shoe. Anyway, that's how this doctor felt about all the patients coming from Bar Park and Flatbush. I just want to tell you, I don't want to keep it too long. I don't want to be too married. But I just want to tell you one thing, that many of the kids that we have today, many of the children, this child that we are here gathered today to raise money for, represents one concept, that every single child is important in a way that is unique only to that child. We're coming up on Shavuos soon. We all know that Shavuos is a time of Matan Torah. And we read on Shavuos the story of Rus. Rus was an individual person that broke away from the mold. She decided that she's going to leave her background and go off. Imagine if Rus would be here today. How would we accept her? How would we look at her? She's Nebi. Could she get a guy in Lakewood? For sure not. They wouldn't even let her into Lakewood. How would we accept a person that's individual, that's unique in their own way? Would we accept them? Probably not. And yet it's a person that is unique, that is outstanding, that wants to be different, that wants to be away from everybody else. That's the person that makes the difference in the future. For our own children, our own kids, I want to tell you one thing. Every single one of the kids, no matter what kind of a mark they're getting in school, no matter how well they're doing, no matter what the teacher says about them, no matter what kind of a note their principal sends home, your child is not doing too great. Doesn't matter. Don't be impressed. It's your child. And for you, he's doing great. And that child may grow up to be the leader of the whole generation. And I'm not kidding. He may turn that little kid that's dreaming with a runny nose, that little kid that's looking out the window far in the sky, this kid may be thinking thoughts that you have no idea what they are. And I know it's getting late. I want to be Messiah. Let's be Mekayim. I'm trying to. Let's be Mekayim the idea of Kol HaMekayim Nefesh Achas Mi Yisrael Ki Lukim Olam Molei. Just like we'd be Mekayim this nefesh of this young child, let us be Mekayim all the individual children that we have, all the individual children that we know, and we will mitzvah Hashem be Mekayim Olam Molei B'Meira B'Yameinu. Amen. Thank you very much.